Hey, this is Brooke, functional medicine dietitian specializing in fertility, and this is the Fertility Dietitian podcast, where I help you uncover the barriers that are preventing you from optimizing your fertility and teach you how to work with your body to finally take home a healthy baby. Each week, I will be diving into different topics on fertility and sharing my perspective on physiology, metabolic health, nutrition, and lifestyle approaches that have helped hundreds of couples get pregnant even after years of heartache. My goal is to empower you with the knowledge you need to take back control of your fertility. Happy listening. We are talking all about how to improve cervical mucus this episode. But first, let's take a step back and talk about why we should even care about cervical mucus and pay attention to it. First and foremost, it tells you when you are fertile. So a female is fertile for 6 days out of each cycle. And it really comes down to when that cervical mucus is present, because this cervical mucus supports the sperm in getting to the egg, helps keep it alive for waiting for ovulation to happen, which that sperm can be kept alive by healthy cervical mucus for up to 5 days. And it even works to filter out unhealthy sperm. So it's a really, really important in conception, right? It's also a sign that your hormones are on track. So it can give you insight to what parameters might need some support in your cycle. Cervical mucus, fertile cervical mucus specifically, is present when estrogen rises. And there can be some funky patterns that arise among the cervical mucus patterns when hormones are off. So essentially, our fertile cervical mucus is going to be slippery and clear, sometimes egg white or stretchy type cervical mucus. That is a type of cervical mucus that is going to filter out that unhealthy sperm the best and support that sperm in staying alive and waiting for ovulation to happen. So when I say that there are 6 days a month that a female is fertile, it's really because fertile cervical mucus can be present for up to 5 days a lot of the time before ovulation happens. The only time that conception can actually be possible in a cycle is on once that egg ovulates. But ideally, we have sperm waiting for ovulation to happen in order for the highest chances of conception in that given cycle. So to sum that up, we want healthy cervical mucus to support that sperm in waiting for ovulation to happen. All right. So you might be wondering what a healthy cervical mucus pattern in a healthy cycle looks like. Typically, it's starting out as sticky or creamy. And then it changes into that egg white, slippery, or clear type. So that egg white, slippery, or clear type cervical mucus is the type that is high fertility. Those are your fertile days. That is the window in your cycle, if you're trying, that you want to be intimate during in order to try to conceive. And then it transitions again after ovulation back to that creamy or sticky or even dry feeling. Not everyone has the stretchy egg white type, and that's okay. As long as you're getting that slippery, clear mucus, that's still indicating that you're getting that peak fertile mucus that is going to prep that sperm and help it get to the egg. So ovulation happens on the last day of fertile cervical mucus about 80% of the time. So cervical mucus is also a really great way to time intimacy when you're trying to conceive. Even without an ovulation predictor kit, you should be able to see that your last day of fertile cervical mucus is ovulation time. You can double check that with other data points like basal body temperature, which would rise that next day after ovulation. Okay, so what happens if you're not seeing any fertile cervical mucus, or maybe you feel like it's not getting to that clear, slippery type and it could use a little support? First and foremost, we want to think about hydration. The majority of cervical mucus is made from water and minerals or electrolytes. And both are important for hydration status. We need water and electrolytes both in order to improve hydration and support that cervical mucus. So, for a quick tip on how to know like how much fluids you should be drinking, you can take your body weight in pounds and divide it in half. And this is how many ounces of fluids you want to be drinking each day. So, at least half of these ounces should be mineral rich fluids. So, think bone broth, mineral mocktails. A quick and dirty mineral mocktail is water with a pinch of salt and a squeeze of a lemon. You can also think about coconut water, adding a scoop of magnesium into a drink to create kind of a mineral mocktail as well. Of course, eating hydrating fruits is going to support your hydration status too because of the minerals that you're getting in there. But think of prioritizing good, clean, mineral rich hydration in order to support that cervical mucus. Another thing to think about when you need to boost your cervical mucus is gut health. A happy gut supports happy hormones, which is essential for that beautiful cervical mucus. Okay. Um, Estrogen plays a really big role in cervical mucus pattern and getting that fertile cervical mucus. So the bacterial balance in the gut impacts what's happening with estrogen in some pretty big ways. So if you think your gut needs some support, think about fiber. Fibrous foods like ground flax seeds, pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, fruits, and starchy veggies are great ways to boost that fiber. But testing goes a really long ways for gut health because of that bacterial balance. And the lighting health can be a little off without giving you any what I call in your face symptoms, alerting you that something's up in the gut. Cervical mucus can alert us that we need to dig a little bit deeper. So if you're already hydrating, we might want to think about doing some additional testing. But in the meantime, you can also think about these next two tips. So, nutrient status is also huge for cervical mucus. Nutrition supports cervical mucus production because of how the estrogen is being produced and used in the body. Focusing on nutrient dense foods like animal proteins, healthy fats, fatty fish, and colorful produce can support cervical mucus production too. And then I've alluded to this, but hormone balance is also really important for cervical mucus production as well. Always remember that hormone imbalance is never a root cause. There's always something behind those hormones driving the imbalance in the hormones, okay? But happy hormones do support healthy cervical mucus, and if you think you have a hormone imbalance, you always want to dive deeper. The band-aid approaches are going to provide short-term changes, if anything at all. Our body has to feel safe enough to produce estrogen and have the resources, aka nutrients, it needs to support how estrogen is used. Estrogen is key for that fertile cervical mucus, remember, and improving sleep quality can be a really big game changer for hormone balance and estrogen also. Okay, so those are my top 4 tips for improving cervical mucus. Hydrate with minerals and water. Consider what's going on with your gut. Make sure you're paying attention to nutrient-rich foods and consider whether you have a hormone imbalance and whether you need to dive a little bit deeper. I'm always here to help you dive deeper and stop guessing. Reach out anytime. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Fertility Dietitian podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave a review to let me know what topics you want more of or less of. If you want to keep learning, subscribe at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out my website for more info on my private coaching program, Master Your Fertility, or my membership community, Fertility Blueprint. And don't forget my digital store. Come say hi on YouTube and Instagram. See you in the next episode.